Hello and welcome to episode 134 of The Imperial Truth. I'm Greg and it's just me today. Before we get into anything, let's talk Element Games. You can use the link in the show notes or the advert on the website and go there to buy your books, your toys, your paints, your glues, your tools, your board games and various other stuff from GW or other people, 20% off in that first pre-order week on almost everything they do from GW. So Element Games, quick dispatch is one of the major key things, and you support the show if you go and use them. And I believe they've had to shut down the actual store there due to local lockdown, but also have a place to go and play as well once this is all over, as much as it will be. Hopefully we'll all get to go back to these places, and Element Games have a pretty good place to play. And then we also have Geek Shield as well. I will say go and check out, if you don't follow them on Instagram or Facebook, go and do that, because they've been running competitions and things like that as well. And they really trying to support the community, and they're also talking about running a podcast as well. So go and check them out on Instagram or Facebook, and you won't just get bombarded with adverts, you will get some other bits and pieces as well. Now, this show's been a little bit delayed since the last one, and I'd like to apologise for that, but just finding the time to sit down and not fall asleep is getting quite difficult at the moment. Work's getting a bit on top of stuff, so hopefully we can start pushing somewhat back to normal, but that might involve my work getting back to normal and us getting some more staff in. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Hopefully next week we have got some talk about Saturnine, and we've got to try and find time to record with a couple of people we're having on from that. But I'm working on it, so hopefully we can just get back into a semblance of normality. And there was something else that I'm still waiting for another friend to have his work settled down as well. So it's just an awkward time, and has been for far too long now. I'm sure you can all appreciate. But at least we're getting, we've had a Heresy release. So King Tsar is out, if I pronounced that correctly or incorrectly. I do apologise if it's not right. But a Heresy release, Forge World starting up, new releases is good news for us. Something to get excited about. And then the big one, obviously, is confirmation that in September we will be getting Book 9. So we've got a definite period of time. The way they say in a month, it could be the end of the month. Let's not get too disheartened if it is towards the end of the month. It is coming. I've got my vouchers waiting, ready to go. Put an order in for some other bits as well. But I hope they're in stock when I do that, because the process at Forge World with resin is quite intensive. They've had to really restrict the amount of crew there. So this is why a lot of stuff's out of stock and might not be coming back for a while. There's no good solution for them. We just have to kind of bear it out, as I say, and then hope that we can reach a point fairly soon where we can have the regular amount of staff back in working hard. Games Workshop Prime, as it were, having issues as well with some of their stock. So it is what it is. It's not what they want. They want to be pushing stock out, but they also want to do things in the correct manner. So yeah, but we're going to get, we say we don't get these books very often, really. So it's always exciting to anticipate getting one in our hands. And the last Road to Thramas was about that, and the previous Road to Thramas was a little bit light, but this one seems to make up for it a little bit, whether that was in reaction to some of the responses to the previous one, I don't know. But it is the final one before the new book, which means it'll be interesting to see if they do jump into a new Heresy article straight away in September, even if the book's not out, and we move on to looking at some other stuff, or whether they take a month off. But I suspect we'll be moving towards the first Tuesday of the month for when we do get new Heresy content up on Warhammer Community. Well, hopefully we can also get some other articles up, but for their standard monthly thing. But we've got the contents, or most of the contents at least, that they've posted up the contents page. We're looking at up to page 82, the forces of the Thramas Crusade start. So before all of that is Thramas, the Grave of Heroes. That's a decent chunk. It starts at the Edge of Ruin, starts on page 9. So we're looking at 73 pages-ish of Thramas. We've got the Thramas Crusade, Dusk's bleak shadows, Death's swift wings, the dreams become nightmares, the heavy toll of victory, and the principal worlds of the Eastern Fringe. There's good 10-11 pages of that, so hopefully there's going to be some nice filling out of not only the background of the actions between the Dark Angels and the Night Lords, but also looking at the area in which they fought as well, which could be really interesting to get into. We have the Dark Angels, the Night Lords, and Legio Victorum. Don't know a huge amount about Legio Victorum, but when we look at the Night Lords is page 128 and Legio Victorum's page 136, so 8 pages. The Dark Angels start on page 82. Of course, we've got to have all the background, but it's 46 pages, so there's a decent chunk there as well for the Night Lords, which is good. Obviously, background and everything else as well. But there's a lot to cover, but I'm looking forward to diving into that because they might not follow the standard pattern, being the First Legion, that the other legions do. So we might be looking a little bit more at the end of the Unification Wars. It'll be interesting to see what other tidbits they put in there. We got essentially 10 pages of the Thramas campaign, which is cool. Always love new missions, whether you play them as they are, whether you take bits from them, is really cool. But I really do need to play through a set of missions, whether it's with the specific armies involved or whether you substitute in your own armies. They do look to be fun. I just need to find an opponent who's willing to commit like that period of time to go and play them, which isn't always easy with work schedules and things like that. We've got the appendix, Legion Starters Appendix, Dark Angels. We've got there's a lot going on here. What we've got here, so stuff we know about, like the Hexagrammaton, unique rites of war. Looks like there's 4 pages of that. We don't know how well that's filled out, but interesting. We've heard of the Inner Circle Knights, Cenobium, Deathwing Companion Detachment, but we've got the Firewing Enigmatus Cabal, Dreadwing Interceptors we know about, Iron Wing Exindio class battle automata, which have been talked about in the books, but I think that's pretty exciting to see what they actually come out as, because although we have an image from the books, there's always some slight deviation when they come onto the tabletop. And then characters, we have Corswain, Marduk, Cedras, and Lionel Johnson. I know some people were desperate and hoping and expecting for Luther to be in this book, but Luther doesn't do anything in the Heresy. I think this is a reason why they've talked about this before, that they're concentrating on characters whose actions actually affect the Heresy, and Luther's don't really. They do affect it, but he doesn't take part in the Heresy. The breaking of Caliban happens post Heresy. And we're all the way up to the siege now, and Luther's still on Caliban, as far as we know. But he's not playing a featuring role in the Heresy at all. So I'm not surprised that Luther isn't in there. I know some people will be annoyed because they want to play with Luther, and that's understandable. It is what it is with Luther. Moving on to the Night Lords, we've got, as I said, we've already seen the Night Lords, so we're looking at, we got the Contica Terminator Elite, which they showed up a little bit in the Road to Thramas. We've got the Rights of War in there that you never know, they might throw another Right of War in there. I'm not expecting a huge amount new with the Night Lords. We have got a guy called Nakrit Thol, who, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to think now, I don't think he's been in a book before. The other characters have Sevatar, Flaymaster, Madrin, Lanashine, Karen Ophian. So, yeah, I'm not expecting hordes of new information, but we'll get a little bit in there. And then we've got this list of army editions, which some of which we've seen, some of which we haven't. So Legion Hussar Squadron. Now, the kind of definition of Hussar comes from the old European light cavalry units that were used, and has come on from there. So a unit of bikes, maybe jet bikes, but I think bikes would be really cool actually to expand the types of bikes there, because we've got a Legion jet bike Sky Seeker Squadron in here as well, which, if I recall correctly, are the heavy support ones. So having something lighter in there, but the fact that they've, when we talk about jet bikes, they're called jet bikes, whereas these Hussars aren't. So that would seem to imply that they are regular bikes rather than jet bikes. We've got the Sabre making its way into print. No surprises there. The Termite Assault Drill, the Legion Arquiter Bombard, the Derrideo. It's probably just an update to include all the new stuff that they've got for it. The Saturnine pattern Aurochs, Aurochs Armoured Transport, Saturnine pattern Kandin Strike Squadron, and a Kandin Strike Squadron. So, some not a huge amount of stuff that's new there. But where they've put the Warhammer Community logo, now normally the formatting for the contents page is equal on both sides. There, I would be amazed if the other half of the Army List editions on the right hand side isn't filled up with stuff. Now it may only be 10 pages, because that left hand side is essentially 10-11 pages. So we might only get 10-11 more. We might be looking at a 215 page book. But there's the only reason you would think to block that out is because there's stuff in there that they don't want to show off yet. So here's hoping that we do get some really cool, funky stuff on that. It might not be the biggest black book ever, but bearing in mind that the Night Lords have been covered, I don't necessarily see an issue with that. It's if the quality's there and it's enjoyable, then whether it's the biggest or not, I don't think is of major import. I'm really looking forward to this. They've done stellar work with the models for the Dark Angels, and if the lore's anything like them, then they're going to be very popular choice. I can see a lot of people jumping onto them. The other thing they've done, right at the end of the article, they put, I'll read it out. As a thank you for joining us on the Road to Thramas over the last few months, we're going to share some exclusive rules for the Dark Angels with you. And what they've done is they've given us a download for Farith Redloss and for Holgwen. So these characters aren't going to appear in the book. They are just here, so make sure you save them. I mean, they'll be findable online. They'll appear other places anyway. But if you want the rules, then download them, save them, whatever you want to do. We're looking at Farith Redloss here. 200 points, Master of the Dreadwings, Cenobite of the Order of the Crimson Scales, and Favoured of the Lion. He's an interesting character, actually. So he's Loyalist only. Weapon skill 6, 3 wounds, 4 attacks. We're looking at Praetor level here. He's got what the Dreadbringers pay. He's Mastercrafted Power Axe. He's armed with 3 Phosphex bombs. Legion starts Dark Angels, obviously. He's a Master of the Legion, independent character. he has to have the Master of Destruction trait if he is your general, your warlord. He's equipped with Dreadbringer's plate, so a 2+ save and a 4+ invulnerable, which is pretty cool. But in addition to that, against any weapon with a crawling fire or melter special rules, this invulnerable save is increased to 2+, and any weapon with a poison special rule can only wound Fareth Redloss on a 6+. So that's gonna help out a little bit, actually, particularly the melter one. I find you every now and then you get the whole squad whittled away from you, and then a lone melter fires up, and your character's out in the open. Although, no, my luck. The occasional one will be rolled there on those almost certainties, but it's a pretty useful defensive tool on that one. He is Master of the Arsenal, so he basically lets him choose one of 3 weapons before at the start of any game. So this is changeable. But as I say, he has an arsenal and he gets to choose what he brings down with him and what's most suitable for the fight. We've got a Neural Shredder Carbine, 18 inches, Strength 1, AP 2, Assault 2, Poison 4 up, ignores cover and pinning. It's the longest ranged gun of the lot. That in itself is a useful tool. With AP2, 2 shots, 4 up poison, ignoring cover. It's not going to change the world, but the pinning rule means if you do get a shot off, you could be really infuriating for your opponent. It's a decent gun, and you will ping a few dudes away as you go in. Moving on from that, we've got the Magaron Atomantic Pulse Pistol, 6-inch range, Strength 8, AP2, Pistol 1, Lance, and Shock Pulse. You're not going to be using this a lot, but if it works, it's going to be pretty awesome. Lance brings the armor value of whatever you're shooting at down to 12. So obviously with Strength 8, you're looking at penetrating a third of the time, just as long as they don't have a flare shield. Shock Pulse, making vehicles only fire snapshots, means that it has the potential to be really infuriating, but at 6-inch range, you've got to be in range of a vehicle and everything like that. It carries a big threat, but not necessarily my choice, I don't think. And then we've got a Shard Bolt Pistol, Selenite Shard Bolt Pistol, 12-inch range, Strength 4, AP 5, Pistol 4, Rending, Moon Silver. Any wound caused against a model with a demon of the Runestorm, or Psyker special rules instead counted as 2 wounds. Wounds caused in excess of the model's remaining wounds do not spill over to other models. Again, I mean, if you are going up against demons of the Runestorm, or maybe Thousand Suns, there might be other times when there's enough Psykers in an army for you to consider it. This becomes an option. It's Strength 4, yeah. It's okay, even against demons winning on 5s. There's 4 shots, 12-inch range though. AP 5, but with Rending. I know demons have a 4-up save. Quite often they're going to have a 3-up save, but not all of them. But Moon Silver doubling those wounds is the big key. So even if you're getting 1 wound through, you're actually getting 2 wounds through, which is probably more likely than the Neural Shredder, because you're poison 4-up anyway. And although the Neural Shredder ignores cover, the demons will be getting their invulnerable save anyway. So, and they're ignoring pinning. So I do think if you are playing against demons of the Runestorm, then the Shard Bolt Pistol is better. I mean, it's minimal. How many times you're going to get to shoot it, and everything else as well. But it's not a bad choice to have. Yes, with a Praetor you might take a combi, whatever, for that one shot, but so it's not too bad. And then he's the Sign of the Dreadwing. So Fareth Redloss and any infantry unit he joins with the Legion of Astartes Dark Angel special rule may choose to move 4 inches through difficult terrain rather than rolling any dice, and may re-roll failed dangerous terrain tests. That's not bad. The guaranteed 4 inches through difficult terrain could be clutch in certain circumstances. If you know you're 8 inches away from a charge, and 4 of that is through difficult terrain, then I would probably take that 4 inches every time. Even if you're still in it for the -2, that's a 6-inch charge. If you're rolling that and roll a 1, all of a sudden you're on a 10-inch charge, and that's a big difference. So for those kind of circumstances where you just need to get to the other side of a wall or bring something within range of your guns, if you know that if you move 4 inches you will be able to shoot, then that becomes absolutely brilliant. If you are a bit of a gambler at other times, maybe you roll the dice. It's up to you, but knowing that you have the ability to step 4 inches through difficult terrain, it might mean things like you can leave your unit in cover, knowing that they can step out round a building or step out round a ruin or what have you, and be in range of whatever they want to be in range of. So it's a nice little rule. It's not going to change the world, but say it helps a little bit. And then he is also the Master of Destruction. So Fareth Redlos has the Tank Hunters and Wrecker special rules applied to all of his shooting attacks, and also confers these rules to the heavy weapons shooting attacks of any infantry he joins. I mean, that's not bad. Tank Hunters getting a reroll. Wrecker, yeah, it is what it is. As into his pistol, his Atomantic Pulse pistol, the fact that he confers these rules to heavy weapons shooting attacks means that might not always mesh well with the Atomantic Pulse pistols. Maybe this is a case where you join him up with some, and we don't know what options we're going to have yet, but maybe you join him up with some Terminators who have some heavy weapons, because then you can push them up. You're more likely to be pushing them up the table or dropping them up the table, and still getting the benefit of Master of Destruction, but also putting your Praetor with, he's got 3 Phosphex bombs. That's nothing to laugh about. Master Crafted Power Axe with his 4 attacks. He's got the ability to put out some damage up close as well. So yeah, I think something with some Terminators might be his best spot. Although maybe you do just give up those some of that combat advantage, or use it as a counter, and leave him back with some heavy weapons and move him up into another squad as the enemy come close. It also depends how many tanks your opponent has, doesn't it? If you're playing a mechanical army that is reliant on robots, then maybe you don't look at it quite the same way, but it gives you a bit of flexibility. But also there is that risk that you're paying for 2 separate things that you don't use at the same time. Always something to look at. But what that does do is make sure that for all his cool rules, he doesn't seem to be over the top because of that nature. But I like that. When we got also, of course, we don't know yet exactly what the rules are for being with the orders for all the orders. The full lowdown of how all that works. So Cenobite of the Order of the Crimson Scales could mean a lot of different things here. He's got let me just have a little look here. I mean, of course, you may just decide that you're doing Dreadwing. You love Fareth Redlos from the novels, and you're going to do him. So that's always an option. Holgwyn, 200 points again. Master of the Deathwing, Seneschal of the Order of the Forest's Claws, and Bulwark of the Legion. He's missing a pip of ballistic skill compared to our good friend Fareth, but he does have 4 wounds, which is pretty tasty, especially when we look at his stuff later on. What's he got? The Deathbringer's Aegis, the Viridian Blade, a Volkite Charger, and Digital Lasers. So he's coming in at 5 attacks as well. That's not bad. He is a Scion of the Deathwing, Master of the Legion, independent character, Grim Resolve, and Warlord. And if he's the Warlord, you have a Child of Terror trait from the rulebook, so you can't choose anything beyond that, and he is a loyalist as well. So he has his Deathbringer's Aegis is his armour, his Cataphractii pattern Terminator armour, which is cool. Cataphractii is not bad. In addition, the controller player may re-roll all Feel No Pain rolls made for the model equipped with the Deathbringer's Aegis, and we'll get back to that one in a second. He has a Viridian Blade, so this is a +2 strength AP2 two-handed mastercrafted weapon with Reaping Blow, which means you can get +1 attack if you're in contact with more than one enemy model at the initiative step when you strike. So you can go up to 6 attacks, which isn't bad. Thanks to the digital lasers, that's obviously why they're giving him the digital lasers, because it's a two-handed weapon. Yeah, there's that's no messing around really. +2 strength as well means you're winning pretty much all the Marines on 2s, and you're putting some hurt on some Mechanicum and some Demons as well, which is pretty good. And he's got Grim Resolve, so when he's reduced to 2 or fewer wounds, Holgrain gains the Feel No Pain 5+ special rule. When reduced to his last wound, he instead gets a Feel No Pain 4+ special rule. So he's got a 2-up armor save, 4-up invulnerable from his Cataphracti, and then no Feel No Pain as standard until he's down to 2 wounds, where he gets 5-up with a reroll, and then 4-up with a reroll. Now, so 5-up with a reroll is slightly better than 4+, and 4+ with a reroll is slightly better than 3+. That's not bad, at all. Obviously, you can get around this with weapons that double his strength and other things like that. And I've heard some people talk about how invincible this guy's going to be. And he gets down, like you start him off with an apothecary in the squad as well. Of course, he gets to use that reroll and that Feel No Pain there, so he's getting it right from the start. And with 4 wounds, how he's never going to die. There's going to be stuff that is, he, against normal weaponry is, unless you roll really badly, it's going to be tough to get through. He's going to be, say, 4-up invulnerable, and then his Feel No Pains. So essentially, for most stuff, it'll be a 4-up with a 5-up re-rolling. If you put, depending on how you do it, essentially that's a 4-up with another 4-up. That's not going to help you against everything. Like, as I say, if he is with Terminators, because let's face it, he's a master of the Deathwing. There's a good chance he will be for a lot of people, just for how cool it is. Then, if I want to take down Terminators, I'm looking at stuff that's AB2. And quite often you'll see Terminators take down Terminators. In my Mechanicum, if I saw a big scary enough unit of Terminators, I'd throw my Ursarax in there, and I'd welcome the mutual destruction between the two and leave like 1 or 2 Ursarax alive. Well, you're not going to be getting your Feel No Pains against Ursarax with Power Fists. It's just not going to happen. Grim Resolve isn't going to help you when the enemy Warlord comes in and Paragon blades your head off. Lots of things like that. So I think it's a really cool rule. I think there will be games where you just roll it and you avoid those situations where something can come in and get you. But I also think there are going to be times where he just dies because he's left out from the rest of his squad and something's dropped on him at strength 10 or strength 8 or 9. Las cannon him out of a squad, as I say, or just weapons with instant death as well. So although I think it's cool, I don't think it's over the top. But he's also got the Sign of the Deathwing rule. So Holgrim may reroll the first failed to hit roll of any phase while engaged in a challenge. This is in addition to any rerolls made by Mastercrafted. So essentially he's got 5 attacks base, 6 if he's in base to base with more than one person, 7 on the charge, and then he's re-rolling 2 of those attacks. And with the Dark Angel special rules with weapons and all that, yeah, he's looking quite good. Again, as I say, 200 points, cool, not necessarily over the top. You're fixed into the Childhood Terror trait, whether you like it or not. Same with Holgrain, you're fixed in with Master of Destruction. Well, you are if he's your Warlord, of course. It doesn't have to be the Warlord. So, although you're losing some of your fun with Farith, you're not. I don't think you're losing quite as much with Holgrain, depending on how you want to set your Legion up in the fight. So I've got a feeling these guys will be used, and it's a bit frustrating they won't be in a book. Hopefully, we'll have them on the apps. I'm sure your army building apps. They'll all appear there at some point. But hopefully, when we do get around to having a red book, they'll all be all brought together in there as well. As I say, we have to wait a long time for our books compared to other game systems because of the way they're done. It means we get these gorgeous big black books that are full of so much background. I wouldn't want to change to the way that, say, Adeptus Titanicus books are done. I think they're fine for what they are. They do allow more content to come out more regularly, but you don't get the same treatment that you do with the black books, and I really like what they do. Yes, would I like more? Yes, of course I would, but also, hey, that's life. So September we're going to start to see people talking about and more effort going into building Dark Angels armies. I think they're going to be a very popular legion. As I say, they've got I think they've probably got the best range of models for any legion, and it's going to be exciting. And they're a popular legion anyway. I don't necessarily think they're as popular as Space Wolves and Blood Angels in kind of the old fandoms, but there's quite a few Dark Angels players out there, so we're going to see a few, I reckon. What's strange is, so I've had an email from Alex, which basically suggested that I do a companion piece based on what Black Library content covers the Dark Angels Night Lord story arc, and well, it's interesting, really, in preparation for the book. In terms of specific stories that cover Thramas, there's not a huge amount. We have Thramas is one of those things that's kind of like talked about, and we all kind of just, oh yeah, Thramas. But I think this book's going to enlighten us a lot about what's gone on, and essentially you get down to Prince of Crows, Savage Weapons, and Angels of Caliban, which doesn't seem like a huge amount of info. Prince of Crows by ADB. Sorry, I've done it in the wrong order. So Savage Weapons, then Prince of Crows, then Angels of Caliban as a reading order. Oh, I don't want to get into too many spoilers here, but we've got if we start with Savage Weapons. Essentially, we've got for 2 years the Dark Angels have battled the Night Lords, and they're no closer to victory when the Night Haunter issues a challenge to Lionel Johnson of the Dark Angels, and they head to an abandoned well for a final confrontation. So much drama, obviously. ADB written this one. It is it's been a long time since I've read this. I'm actually tempted to go back and reread these two short stories because there's just so much information goes on, but and sometimes it's just good to refresh yourself. You forget sometimes you remember how good something is, but it's only when you go back and reread it you get the full kind of impact of what it's like. Where Savage Weapons is a short story, Prince of Crows is more of a novella, quite a lot longer, like half of a normal sized book, maybe a little bit larger, and deals with Sevatar a lot as well, which a lot of fans love, and frankly, who can blame him? But it's about how he deals with the ending of Savage Weapons and things like that, and moves that storyline on a little bit more. And then in Angels of Caliban, we have kind of the conclusion of that bit, and we move more into the Unremembered Heresy arc, and out of the Thramas, well out of the Thramas Crusade, but still dealing with some of the aspects of that. I suppose you could look at, if you wanted to push it, The Long Night deals with Sevatar post all that as well. Some reflections back of his character and things like that. But essentially, I think that's about all you've got in terms of looking at Thramas itself until this Black Book comes out. I mean, if you wanted to look back at the legions before Thramas, then obviously you could read Fallen Angels and Descent of Angels to get their side of things for the Dark Angels. On the Night Lord side of things, I think actually maybe the Primarch novel would show you a lot of with like Kurz' character beforehand. The problem with the Night Lords is that they appear in a lot of little bits and pieces and referred to without having their own set story arc. So it's a little bit all over the place. And part of the nature of the events of the Thramas story arc and the stories we talked about is that the Legion is not one piece. It's not like the other legios in terms of the majority or being one or two segments working together. So where we do see the Night Lords in other stories, it's not necessarily the story of Kurz and Thramas. So, it's limited on what we know, as I said. But that's about all I've got for this episode. Again, I really apologise. I know it's a very short one. I am desperate to get back to more normal. Thanks for sticking by me on that one. One thing I did want to point out, which is kind of big news, I think, and that's that the Facebook page for Forge World has changed. And so the logo's changed to the Eye of Horus on the red background, and they've changed their about. Here on the official Facebook page for the Horus Heresy, you will find all the latest news and updates for the Horus Heresy Age of Darkness and Adeptus Titanicus games. So this kind of doesn't mean a huge amount straight away. Forge World is essentially now specialist games with all the different departments for Middle Earth and blah blah and what have you, all coming under that. And Age of Darkness being part of that as well. But what we have here is a clear distinction of where to go to get your Horus Heresy content in whatever format it appears in, and moving down the line that might expand as well. So if they release Battlefleet Heresy, something like that, then that folds into that. Maybe they release Siege of Terror, in some format as a game, that can feed into that as well, or who knows what. There's plenty of other stuff that could happen that may never happen, but it allows them space there to put it into somewhere where it belongs. What it does mean is there's a commitment there to the Horus Heresy setting. So yes, we've got Adeptus Titanicus, which is there and committed to as well, but also to the Horus Heresy. Now there's a lot of if you go to certain forums and things like that, there's a lot of consternation, frustration, and worry that the Horus Heresy is being binned off. And we've had this chat for a long time now. Before lockdown happened, the 5-6 months before that, we had steady releases, not quick, but steady. Every few weeks we were getting Horus Heresy stuff coming out, and it might only be one thing here and there, but it was constant along that kind of thing. We almost seemed to get it was almost seemed to be like a 4-week cycle of getting new toys out. We saw things like the Arquita, the Saber. I can't even remember now. There was some characters thrown in around. We've had the preview images, things like Eidolon and that as well. Again, not huge amounts, but there's been information there that we have. There's obvious stuff waiting to come out. We've got new Legion units listed in that contents, and obviously those pages where they're part of that page where we have information obscured. And I know some people question whether that's actually happened or not. The formatting of that book, from the people I know who used to do that and who I still think do, wouldn't let the book go out with writing down one side and then a big space left on the other side. That's been done to cover up information. So we hopefully got units coming out for that kind of stuff as well. We've got all this. We've had some Dark Angel stuff come out. We're waiting for plenty more of that as well. It seems to me that I've said this before. We're on this new style of release that seems that shows evidence that they're not stopping with Heresy. Yes, they've slowed down to where they were 6 years ago. We know that it's not quite the same team and everything else. There's a lot of reasons for it, I'm sure, and we don't know all of them. But it doesn't look like the heresy's going anywhere, and kind of we've maintained that on the show. The people I have on the show, we're looking at the way Forge World do things, and we've never believed they're going to stop it. Yeah, they might do in the future. You never know, but it feels like, why would you do these things that they've done if you were? We know that there's a commitment or a desire to finish the Heresy Black Books, and their kind of their viewing on how many they need to do is considerably more than they've got out now. Lots of people are now thinking there's going to be a rush to, once Book 9's out, we can just go straight to the Siege of Terror. It's like, well, it doesn't really see how the Black Books work. I can understand there's a worry in that. I don't see it personally myself. There are plenty more stories to tell. People don't. I think there's this kind of worry that there aren't. We've got the Schism on Mars. Molech is a pretty big battlefield that they haven't done. Talon is another one that they could easily do in a classic Forge World style. Forge World have shown that they can open up areas of the universe, like they did with I can't remember which book it was now. Was it book 6, Paramar? So they can go and dive into those smaller kind of exchanges as well and flesh them out, because of course they are still huge. If we have 3 of those and the 3 fights I've just mentioned, then that all of a sudden you're on 16 books. And then the Siege of Terror is going to be more than 1 book, you would have thought. And they talked about, they throw numbers. It's very easy for them to kind of say, we're halfway through what we want to do with the Heresy, or once this book's out. There was some belief that around 20 books would want to be done. Now, as I say, there's a long time to go before that, but I don't think they're going anywhere with it just yet. Otherwise, just the way they're going about things seems to suggest that they want to keep going, just as long as they keep selling models, of course. Not all the models that are coming out have got 40k rules either. I think that's a strong indication that they believe there's enough of a market there for them to sell without having to just shove them into 40k to get the numbers up as well. So yeah, I think we're looking forward to having a good time of it once we're all up and running. Yes, we're running out of novels in terms of the Siege of Terror, although it's going to take a few years to finish that off. But they've just announced that they're going to be doing the next Horus Heresy character series book, which is going to be about Luther. I think it's going to be called First of the Fallen, written by Gav Thorpe. So it's not like Forge World. They've never really been kind of dictated to by the pace of the novels anyway. There is a definite kind of push that the novels give. People read books, get excited, go and buy models. There's no doubt about that. So you have to consider that. But we still got a number of Primarch's novels to go, and the character series shows that they're not done with the Heresy, even if the siege comes to a conclusion. And then there's also space just to go back and revisit major stories, arcs, stuff like that. Maybe they do limit how they do that. Maybe the character series is one way of doing that. But there's still plenty of stories to be told, even if it's just through the character series. So there is still a lot there to get teeth into in terms of creating rules and everything else. Anuj, when they were talking at the Warhammer Fest a year and a bit ago, they were very keen on the next book, the stuff they'd pulled back from this book with Mechanicum and maybe agents of the War Master and the Imperium. They were very keen to be pushing forwards with that as well. So hopefully we're going to be getting all that, and hopefully we can start to look towards, once book 9's come out. First off, hopefully we can enjoy book 9 for a little bit without looking too far forwards too fast at what the next book's going to be. But I understand that there is excitement to look forward to, particularly for a Mechanicum player, and it does stay the way that we think it will with the quite extensive rule set that probably will be there with the Mechanicum. But there we go. That's my little piece. Maybe you're all on board with me anyway. Maybe some people aren't. I feel positive towards what's going to happen. As I said, I mean, I'm going to keep this show just as one piece because I can't be bothered. It is what it is for this episode. And again, I apologise for those who are wanting a bit more. But next episode, I say we'll hopefully be looking at a deep dive on Saturnine. So if you haven't read it yet, go and read it because we won't be holding anything back on that one. And then after that, we're going to have a black book. So I'm going to make the commitment here to dive onto that as soon as I can, make some space to devour it in the way that every overexcited Horus Heresy hobbyist will, and then. As we say, I've still got episodes ready to go when people are available to do them, but who knows when everything's going to be settled down a little bit. I know that there are a number of Horus Heresy events being planned for September and moving forwards. I am starting to look at next year and what can and can't be done and what I need to put in place, because I think anyone creating an event from now for the next period of time probably needs to be looking at putting in place measures for if that event can't carry on. I think there's 3 events now that I'm not going to be attending. Certainly one of them's changed date and I haven't received any money from that. One that was cancelled that I haven't received any money from, and then the other one I can't remember exactly, so I won't talk about that one. But I almost don't mind not receiving any money. People have had to pay for things like that, but it's a bit galling not having kind of being told this event's not happening. If you really need your money back, then you can have it. We would appreciate that people would put some money in. So in terms of something like that happen, I don't want to put on an event for 60 odd people, have it go through issues that are out of my control in terms of lockdown, things like that, and then have to turn around to people and say, sorry, no refunds at all, whatever. Because that feels wrong. So I need to work out exactly how I'm planning things. And I think that goes for a lot of things, actually. I think particularly if you're running an event and there's only one of you doing it, then you need to be aware of what happens if you're ill, if you can't make it. Is there a system set up so that event still goes ahead? So people aren't, people aren't paying for something that doesn't happen, because that is your responsibility if you're doing it. And venues and things like that, all those little bits. So whether it's insurance or whether it's making sure you've got a backup that can handle things, all those little bits and pieces, I think maybe some event organisers need to be considering. And it's not something I'd really worried too much about beforehand. I was like, yeah, we'll meddle by. But I know the guys over at Company of Legends on the Edge of Empire getting stressed about running their event. And you know what? The fact that they've come out and said, no, these are the issues, this is what we're dealing with, and whatever, actually then allows people to voluntarily say, we support you, don't make yourself ill, because it does. When you run an event, there's a lot of stress and stuff, and so living in a non-normal environment like we are at the moment, there's a lot of pressure on people, and people feel it in different ways, and some people don't feel it so much. But I know, from being at work and working this, I've had a few days where I've come home and just brains frazzled and can't face what I'm doing in that respect. So we don't want people to feel like that. Some of these events might have to go up a little bit in price to cover kind of either insurance or someone else coming in, things like that. I think actually when you look at the price of a lot of events, they're very reasonable. And going up a few quid wouldn't be a major issue. I know that if I go and do an outdoor activity all day, the chances are a few hours of some of those activities will be more than I'd spend on a weekend's event somewhere. So go-karting is a good one. I know you have to pay for equipment and stuff like that, but these events are hiring. I know it's not about making money doing these events, but I think every event organiser should have that little slush fund, which if everything goes well, they get to take home a small amount of money. I'm happy with that if it means that if some things go wrong that you cover your bases and don't lose money. I think that's a sensible option. But you can pay 35 quid to go karting for an hour, and you can pay £50 for a 2-day event with food throning. When we look at the prices of events, I think sometimes we could be a bit more flexible in that. Obviously, I don't want to see them all go up to over 100 quid. That would be disappointing. I wouldn't be able to go to as many. But I don't see an issue with an extra £10 here and there for some people's events. And some people will say we don't need to do that, and that's understandable. That's cool, and that maybe they're running their event works out that way. Anyway, but some of these event places might be putting their prices up as well. So I think we need to be sensible as event organisers, but also as event goers, that there are still going to be challenges going ahead. And just be cool, be chill. People are trying to make fun events for people, and people are going to have fun. Very rarely is anyone out to screw anyone out. That's not what's happening. So, support each other. Be calm when if things go wrong as well. Again, there aren't many professionals running these, unless it's usually gaming centres themselves running events. A lot of the time it's people like me going out, hiring a gaming centre, wanting to put something on for people. I'm by no means a professional event organiser, as a lot of people who come to my events will know. But there we go. I think we're done there. If you've got any feedback, if you've got any questions, send them in to greg@theimperialtruth.com. You can find all the social medias, Child of Fang everywhere, Imperial_Truth on Twitter. You can find our Facebook page as well. The links are all in the show notes. We have a Patreon if you feel like you want to throw a couple of quid in as a kind of tip for doing the shows. We have t-shirts and things like that. There is a link to the store down below, and you can either have a US or a UK store for purchasing some t-shirts. But I feel like that's enough of me warbling. So until next time, you have been listening to The Imperial Truth.